everybody else. And we are live. Right. Don't ask why I'm wearing a mask. That will be later on in the show. Boys in the Big Apple podcast, episode number 4. Sean is back. Luca is in the middle of nowhere or somewhere. And we got a special guest today, Robert Pimpsner. He is the founder and the head of Pinstripe Prospects, a website dedicated to the Yankees minor leagues, reports all around there. Robert, how are you doing tonight? And I really suspect that you have to be excited about tomorrow.
I'm doing well. Well, tomorrow, not as excited as you might expect, but I'm really looking forward to May 4th when the minor league season starts, and we get to see all these guys back and have had out a year. I've always been more of a minor league guy than major league guy, and I'm really anxiously looking forward to seeing minor league action again.
Sean, you want to provide your thoughts, and then Luca? Just going
all right, well, kind of an intro first.
Sure.
Well, obviously, we are inching closer. We're getting closer to opening day. We got it coming back tomorrow. Very excited for that. As far as the minor leagues go, I'm very excited for that too. Hoping, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be going to Scranton again this year because they're about an hour from where I am. So hoping to go back to see the Rail Riders this year. So I'm excited to see what the minor leagues are going to look like. Obviously we're going to make a quick discussion on what happened to the minor leagues before we get into any New York Yankees baseball. But I'm very excited to talk about Staten Island and what happened there.
Well, there's a lot that happened there. I've done a lot of talking about the situation in Staten Island, and the bottom line comes down to it wasn't one particular issue with the Yankees.
Right.
Had the contraction not happened, I would not have been surprised to see the Yankees leave Staten Island anyway. A lot of things going on that unfortunately pushed the Yankees out, and it was really just a perfect storm of situations between the pandemic pretty much killing everything and contraction happening and just the status of everything in Staten Island just kind of really spelled the end of that team. And it's sad.
Yeah.
Me personally, I live in Staten Island. I grew up at that ballpark. I've gone to that ballpark every summer since 2001, except for last year. And I wish it didn't happen, but unfortunately it did. But bigger and better things are going to be on the horizon.
Yeah.
Sean can relate to that because obviously he's moving to Staten Island in a couple of months. Now, let me ask a question because I was actually doing my research on this going back. I think it was a couple of weeks ago because I was supposed to write an article about it or something like that. I was going to do an episode about it. But wasn't the MLB trying to cut teams before the pandemic due to like travel restrictions and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yes. So what happened was back in 2019, there was rumors swelling about the contraction. And that contraction was pretty much called the Houston plan because it was created by the Houston Astros as a way to pretty much even the odds across the board. Because before the contraction, teams like the Yankees would have 10 minor league teams.
Yeah.
Once the Astros would have 6 or 7. So it was all over the place. The Yankees were really loading up on low minor league teams because what they would do is they would sign any guy that they think could be a diamond in the rough, and they would give them play and see what they have. And when you're a team like the Yankees that doesn't draft at the front of the draft, who's always in the back, constantly losing draft picks because of actions at the major league level and success at the major league level, and you're a team that gets penalized every which way because you're a successful team, you end up needing to find ways to develop players. And the best way to do that is by loading up your minor league system with so many teams and having so many players. Last year, the Yankees had over 365 players under contract, including guys on the 40-man and then guys in the minors. So the Astros and several teams like them put forth this plan in 2019 to contract. Everyone's limited to 4 full season teams, 1 complex league, and a foreign rookie league. So this really hurt the Yankees because the Yankees have now been forced to get rid of the Staten Island Yankees, Pulaski Yankees, and one of their Gulf Coast League Yankees teams. So they lost 3 teams. Each of these teams is made up of 35 men each, plus the associate coaching staffs and everything. So it's a big gutting for the Yankees because you're looking at over 100 players that will end up having to let go in the next few weeks when minor league spring training ends.
Okay, so I do have a question, and Sean kind of shares the same question I do. And this was before they got cut, meaning the Staten Island Yankees. Why? Now, I don't know that you have the reasoning or whatnot, but I'm just going to ask for your opinion or whatever on that. Why didn't they use Staten Island as an alternate site rather than Scranton? I mean, Staten Island's only a couple boroughs down, and it's closer than Scranton is.
A lot of the reasons is because the same reasons why they left Staten Island. The management of the team, the minor league affiliate in Staten Island, unfortunately let the stadium go to hell, unfortunately. Outfield wall is falling apart. There's a lot of pipes bursting. There's a lot of issues internally that need to be fixed. The field was in horrible shape. I actually shared a Google satellite image of the field a few months ago, like when the alternate site thing was in effect. And you can actually see how horrible shape the stadium is in. Not only that, Scranton is partially owned by the Yankees, and the Yankees had a big hand in that renovation, which is only a couple years old. And that renovation brought the Scranton facilities in line to what is at Yankee Stadium. So they have a lot there that they just do not have in Staten Island or Trenton or any other ballpark for that matter in the area because of what they did to that with that renovation. That being said, it would have been great to have them on Staten Island and have them working out at that ballpark, but unfortunately the state of the stadium is just too far gone for it to have happened.
Yeah.
Luca, do you have any comments, kind of questions as we keep talking about that?
No comments here.
Well, really? Well, you've been quiet this whole time.
No, I've just been listening. It's a very interesting story with Staten Island.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can even go down to the ballpark and you can actually see the outfield wall. There's parts missing on the outfield wall. The field is playable. You can't use that field for anything right now. Wagner College usually plays baseball on that stadium, and it was supposed to host the MAC tournament as well. And unfortunately, none of that's happening because just of the sad state of the stadium because of the previous management.
Now, my question for you too is, go ahead, Luca.
Did they ever try to fix it, or do they not have enough money to fix it? What's the story there with the field, the walls, and stuff like that?
I can't speak for the owners. From my experience, everything they tried to do was pretty much on the cheap. The people that are supposed to handle stadium operations and the field and everything were not given the resources needed to actually take care of the facility the way it should have been, unfortunately. And the result is ultimately the Yankees leaving because of the state of said stadium. And this is not something that was just happened. It's something that's been building up over a decade of just a lot of issues with the Yankees. And I've heard it all from the Yankee side. I've heard it from the front office side. And unfortunately, what it comes down to is if you're not going to put the money in and make sure your facility is top notch, then don't expect to have the minor league affiliate.
Now, my question for you too is, I know several years ago they did a lot of construction over by the ballpark, adding the parking garage, stuff like that. Do you think the traffic from that, plus all the traffic to the ferry and the lack of attendance, could have also resulted in what happened to the Staten Island Yankees?
Well, like I said before, it's not one specific thing. It's just a bunch of little things that added up over time. And, with the construction going on between the mall and the wheel, that hurt the team a lot of ways because there was a lot of flooding backed up because of construction into the stadium. So it caused a lot of issues that the team just didn't want to spend the money or didn't spend the money to fix, or was waiting on the city. And if anyone has ever dealt with New York City, if you want to wait on the city, you're going to be waiting a decade.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, it's not one little thing. There is a lot of stuff that can be contributed back to just not knowing what they were getting into when they bought the team. You got to remember, this ownership group bought the team in 2011 from the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
And when they owned the team, that stadium was top notch. They made sure every little bit of money. The stadium was painted every weekend before opening day. They made sure the field was taken care of. The field was pristine. Padding and everything was always brand new and kept up to specs. Everything was perfect. And this new group came, which was a bunch of investment people. Pretty much right away they started coming in and cutting line items and not realizing what they were doing because they had no baseball experience. And unfortunately, while I think they came in with the best of intentions, I just think they just had no idea what they were doing, and it shows.
Okay.
Now, obviously, with the money aspect and all the stuff in the stadium, that probably had something to do with the fact they didn't change I think it was their home uniform since 2012, something like that. Am I correct?
Yeah, none of their uniforms have been changed since 2012. That was the last time they bought new uniforms, aside from specialty uniforms for one-off games or the Pizza Rat stuff like that. And I don't know if you guys remember baseball uniforms in 2012, much different than baseball uniforms in 2018, 2019. Just the material the uniforms are made out of is so different. Yeah. One thing, Staten Island Yankees got lucky because the New York Yankees supplied the uniform pants, undershirts, and outerwear for these players because it was all just Yankee gear. So they didn't have to buy pants or anything like that. They just had to pay for the jersey tops. And these jersey tops were used and abused over a decade. And fortunately, by 2019, you can actually, if you go back in photos, you can actually see photos where pieces of it are falling off, pieces are falling apart. Yeah. And they were just very uncomfortable to a point where a lot of the coaches refused to wear the jerseys just because of how uncomfortable they were too.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, my question to you also is, obviously, we know the Pizza Rats thing was a very debatable topic between a lot of Staten Island. I know I did see, if I remember correctly, I believe it was a Staten Island Advance had said part of the reason people hated it is because some found it offensive to Italians. I'm Italian. I personally wasn't offended by it, but I just know that they say that the Pizza Rats gimmick was also part of the reason that, to add to your point of a lot of little things.
Yeah, it's another example of one of those little things. Like the Yankees did not like the Pizza Rats. It was done without the Yankees' input or Yankees' permission. And it comes down to it, I'm Italian too. I don't find Pizza Rats offensive. I find it stupid, but a lot of names in minor league baseball are stupid.
Exactly.
It's money. But to me, for what it was supposed to be the full-time name of the team, and to me, I don't think you can, honest to God, name a team that full-time. For a promotion, okay, I get it. Promotion, some merch, and all that fun stuff. And, as someone that's a native Staten Islander, when you look at it, I understand the community's frustration with it. One, the Pizza Rat had nothing to do with Staten Island. It happened in Manhattan. It happened in the subway system. And the fact that it happened in the subway system is another red flag for people in Staten Island because it's the only borough in New York City without a subway, and it's a sore spot for a lot of the community. So I get it. I get your frustration with it. When you come to me and tell me Pizza Rat is offensive, or you tell me that it's apocalyptic, which is literally what one congressperson said or one city council person said about the name, that's where you lose me. Say it's a stupid name. Say it has nothing to do with Staten Island, because both are 100% true. They're stupid names, and have no place being a name of a full-time team. For a promotion, okay, I get it.
Yeah. think.
Was you forgot something? You forgot you were going to say something, Sean?
The problem is I had a reference for all of this, but my computer it's still taking forever to update.
What was I going to say? Going to another curious question I have, and this kind of relates to, I guess, my baseball season, because this year we always, in the past, used to do our games, our end of the year games, our green and white games between the varsity and the junior varsity teams at I forget the name, MCU Park in Brooklyn for the Mets. Now, obviously, this year it's going to be different because we don't know if they're going to rent out the stadium, and obviously, you know, with them being moved up to AA, their schedule is going to be longer, and we don't know if we're going to get in that weekend or whatever. And I looked at the schedule; they're home that weekend.
High single A. It's not AA. So originally they were rumors that these cyclones were going to go AA, but they actually went to high single A.
Yeah, I did see that.
Affiliated, it would have been in that same league.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some I talked to my coach about is like, listen, I mean, I don't know the answers. I haven't been keeping up as much as Sean has or you would with Richmond County Bank ballpark. And I'm like, you know, why don't we just, you know, try over there or something like that? What do you know anything about what they're going to do with the field? Are they trying to rent it out? You said Wagner's not going to play there. Do you know anything about it, or do you suspect anything?
What I know and what I can say are two different things. And when it comes to the ballpark is going to have a new tenant. It's going to have a new baseball team. It's going to have a renovation. But unfortunately, right now, the field is unplayable. There's literally no field. It's all dead. Mm-hmm. So right now, there's just no way to actually, you know, have something on there. The walls falling apart. It needs to be completely replaced. Literally, sections are missing from the outfield wall, and it is in rough shape. The stadium needs a lot of TLC, and we'll be getting it, but there will be a new tenant in there soon. For 2021, I don't expect them to rent out the stadium at all. I expect 2022, once the renovations and everything are complete and the new team fully moves in, it will be a good sight to see, and they'll be able to rent it out.
Now, my last point before we, you know, change topics. I know from the letter that was released the day everything happened, they were saying without the community's support and without the support of the New York Yankees, there is no baseball left in Staten Island. Do you believe that this truly could be the end of professional minor league baseball in the borough of Staten Island?
I'll tell you, this is not the end of professional baseball in Staten Island. Staten Island will be getting a new professional baseball team. It will be something that will come out in the next, possibly a couple of months. There's going to be something announced in that time, and there'll be a tenant. There will be a tenant for that stadium, and it will be a level of play much higher than the Staten Island Yankees were, and much higher than what the Brooklyn Cyclones play right now. So it will be something nice and something good. I believe Staten Island is a community that deserves baseball, and a community that can support baseball. It comes down to if you scratch our backs, we scratch yours. And one of the biggest problems with the Staten Island Yankees is that they kept to the stadium. They weren't very into the community. They weren't really engaged. You know, there's a lot of little things. You know, they weren't aware of the community around them. We got almost 500,000 people living on Staten Island. Staten Island alone is larger than 9 major league markets, with 40% of the population living within a 25-minute bus ride of that stadium. There is no excuse for that to not have 5,000 people a night.
Exactly. And you even got the Staten Island Railway, too.
Well, they did not do what they had to do to really, fill that stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were saying, Sean?
I was just going to say, is there any final thoughts on Staten Island?
Luca's been pretty quiet. I mean, you want to say anything?
No, I was
Any
just gonna, I'm
questions?
taking everything in. I'm learning more as I go with the Staten Island Yankees.
Yeah, unfortunately,
No,
it was a perfect storm of things, and had the pandemic not happened, maybe Staten Island might have been saved. Maybe the Yankees moved on, but I can tell you this: the Yankees threatened to pull their player development contract in 2018.
I remember.
So this is nothing that should have been surprising, and if it was,
Yeah.
it means someone wasn't doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate, but obviously we'll see what happens. I don't even know when any trial or anything else is going with this lawsuit or anything, because the only time I heard anything about it is when it officially came out.
So they had a meeting with the lawyers last week, and they will be going to arguments at some point in April. And the one thing I will also note is that this lawsuit, we're probably going to look at a joint decision for this lawsuit, and of course the lawsuit between the Tri-City Valley Cats and Major League Baseball and Houston Astros, because essentially the Valley Cats lawsuit is a copy and paste of the Staten Island lawsuit with some certain things omitted.
Yeah.
Now, other than the two we just mentioned in Tri-Valley Cats and the Yankees, are there more lawsuits like this?
Right now, they're the only two lawsuits, which I'm actually pretty surprised about.
Me too.
I was expecting more. But,
I would say this.
Yeah. Now, I'll ask you this, since I know you follow the minor leagues very closely. What would you have to say about what happened? I know the Trenton Thunder were very, very disappointed in what happened. We're even calling out the New York Yankees and everything. And I know the community was very hurt. Now, I believe there will be baseball there once again, because I know that area was very passionate about what happened with the Trenton Thunder. What do you have to say about what happened down in Trenton?
Well, I will say this. I know Trenton's going to have a team in the MLB Draft League, which is essentially a league that's taking the New York Penn League's place. So the MLB Draft League is going to be an amateur league that is going to be equivalent quality of play to what the New York Penn League was with college guys and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to Trenton, I know the Yankees had some issues in Trenton. I'm not as well versed at everything as stuff in Staten Island, obviously, because I'm not in Trenton every day. But I've heard little things here and there and stuff. So I wasn't overly surprised, and I knew they were interested in Somerset for a while. And once that professional baseball agreement between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball ended, they were able to get Somerset. Had the agreement between minor league baseball and Major League Baseball been extended, they would have stayed in Trenton. So what it comes down to is just because minor league baseball's negotiating committee allowed that thing to expire and didn't push for an agreement and get things done quicker. And there's a lot of issues on minor league baseball's end with them changing the negotiating committee in the middle of things and all that. It just came down to, once it expired, they were like, we can get Somerset, let's go to Somerset. Because Somerset has long been considered one of the best teams in baseball for how they operate. Their front office is top-notch. Their stadium is top-notch. Their field is literally one of the best fields in all of baseball, major league, minor league, everything. And they take that extremely seriously. And there's a huge Yankee connection there. But when it comes down to it, once that agreement expired, they're like, we can get Somerset. Let's get Somerset, because it is a huge step up from Trenton. It's a huge step up from Staten Island. What it comes down to is that just by management and ownership alone, they were getting so much more. You look at Somerset. Somerset's renovating their stadium right now, and they're paying for it out of their own pockets. They're not asking the city for anything. And that's what the Yankees wanted. That's what MLB wanted.
Yeah.
Now, to kind of, I would say, cap kind of the subject off.
I was actually going to say something.
Sure, go ahead.
Go.
I was going to say the worst part of these minor league cuts is like it really benefits small town communities, even small boroughs like Staten Island. Like we're trying to revive the economy and try to get back the jobs that were lost during the pandemic. And cutting the minor league teams is just going to be a bigger loss for the communities.
I agree 100%. And it sucks. A lot of these communities are not getting professional baseball back or getting any baseball back. You know, you look at what happened with Lancaster. Lancaster was like, well, you may have a team, you may not, and now they're screwed. You got the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes. They couldn't join any independent league. They had to make their own league because they're so far out. They can't join any other league. And you got a lot of these small towns that are just, you know, no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen in Lowell or Norwich yet. You know, those two teams have been eerily quiet. You know, there's been no news about where they will go or anything. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this because, you know, I know Staten Island's going to have a new team, but a lot of these other places are just left without baseball, and it's a shame. And not only that, you're losing not just the jobs of the front office people in these minor league teams. You're losing the jobs of these minor league players that would have made up these teams. You're losing the jobs of coaches that would have made up these teams. And it's just a lot to lose in this moment.
Yeah, what I was going to say before Luca came in with his thoughts is I don't know this. As I said, I haven't been, you know, keeping up with the minor leagues as much, and I do support, like, you know, everything that just has been going on in this discussion regarding, you know, the cuttings and stuff like that. And we all feel bad, obviously. And did Charleston or Pulaski ever have similar issues to the way Trenton and Staten Island had issues?
No. Charleston is actually owned by the same owners of the Hudson Valley Renegades. So it's the same group. So there are a lot of comforts there. Charleston has always been a top-notch organization. Pulaski was a top-notch organization. They put in millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to take that ballpark from literally one of the worst in minor league baseball to one of the best. With a historic ballpark like that is incredible. And they built something special in Pulaski. And, you know, for a while it was expected they might have become the high A team of the Yankees. But then they decided to go with the rest of the Appalachian League into college ball route. So, you know, when it comes down to, you know, Pulaski, Charleston, these two organizations, you know, I've not heard a bad thing about either of them.
Pretty interesting there. Sean, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I just have one final question. Obviously, now we know what the minor leagues are going to look like going into 2021. Before we get into our minor league preview as well over with them, do you know the situation? What's going on with the Gulf Coast League, those leagues? I know the very low developmental leagues. Are they still going to be taking place? I heard that they were supposed to keep going after everything was said and done with.
Yeah, so the Gulf Coast League is still going to be around, but it's going to be a much, much different league. You're going to see much more foreign players in the Gulf Coast League versus having you know, high school or college guys play there like we had in the past. You know, what it came down to is like those short season leagues were obligated to happen after the Major League Baseball draft so that those draftees have someplace to go. Now that they're moving the draft into July, and the draftees are not even signing 2021 contracts or contracts for the year of the draft. They're signing contracts for the year after. So they'll start in spring training and everything like that. So the college guys that would sign will probably start off in single A, so they'll go to Tampa. And then high school guys will probably, you know, maybe have a couple at-bats or a couple of innings in Gulf Coast League in the following year, but then go to Tampa. You know, it's going to be a real – what we don't know right now is really how this low minor situation is going to work out, but I expect you to see the Gulf Coast League teams become more of an extension of those foreign rookie leagues where it's really 90% of these non-drafted independent international free agent guys that are getting a shot at first taste of the minors in the U.S. and much, much less of, you know, regular – you know, draftees or anything like that, because how this whole thing is set up, you know, when you look at it in the past, you look at GCL Yankees teams, and they had two. Now every team is going to be limited to only one GCL team.
Mhm.
When it comes down to it, the Yankees used to load those things up with those later round draft picks that they got, and they would do great because they were all college guys going up against a lot of high school and international free agents. So we'll see how that really changes. It's something that's really up in the air. I know the leagues are going to happen, the games are going to play, but it's just up in the air how it's going to really work out in the end.
Yeah.
Obviously connected to this subject. We'll probably go into our minor league preview and the alternate site stuff, because originally what we had was going into the Yankee stuff and the 6-man rotation. But as we're talking, we did a good job and a nice job of discussing this with Staten Island Yankees and stuff like that. So I might as well just go into the minor league stuff. I'm going to go around the round table, and I'll get Sean, then Robert, then Luca. How do you think – now, this was announced like very, I would say, early in spring training, at least from my recollection, that the AAA season would be delayed a little bit due to them trying to get the vaccines and stuff. Now, obviously, that is a serious issue in terms of like protecting yourself from COVID and however, people feel about it. But knowing they didn't have a season last year and some of them were at the alternate site, how does that affect the players in general and the ones who might be called up to make a roster spot if somebody gets injured or something like that? I'm going to start out with Sean.
Well, I think the loss is obviously going to hurt a lot of people. The rosters I know are going to be looking very different. I think it's going to take quite a few years to finally get the developmental process back at least close to what it was. It's going to, like I said, it's going to take a while. I know the delay of the season is really going to suck, especially for those that are coming from minor league camp up to the alternate site. Now, I do remember Aaron Boone saying that teams are going to be playing like the local teams in the area. Like I know the Rail Riders will probably be playing the Iron Pigs for a few exhibitions, stuff like that. So I'm more curious to see what it's going to look like. But personally, I think it's going to be a couple years before the minor league system and developmentally the league is going to be the same, because even the loss of college baseball last year too, I think is going to have a huge effect on the draft, stuff like that. So it's almost a wait and see kind of game. Luca?
I was going to say it's a wait and see game too. Like finally, as you mentioned, Sean, that Aaron Boone said that local teams will be playing each other. I mean, it's better than what we had last year with the alternate site where nothing really was going on. It was probably just like intra-squads and whatnot. But what do you do in the case of a pitcher like Davy Garcia? Like, I guess he's getting the reps before he'll probably get called up, because I could very well see him being used for a pitcher that needs rest or injury. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Robert?
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head. With the loss of the minor league season last year, with the loss of college baseball, and with minor league baseball being pushed back this year, there's a lot of development time being lost. I'm not too worried about the guys that would have been in AAA, because those are the guys that were at the alternate site last year and the guys that are at the alternate site this year. So they're better off than most. It's the guys that would have been in AA last year. It's the guys that would have been in high A last year. There are a few guys that I had pegged as guys to watch that could have been high risers and quick risers through the system that really couldn't do anything because the season got canceled. Those are the guys that really suffered. And Sean's your point about, it's going to be a couple years before we get everything back on track. And that's absolutely right, because everybody was left up to their own devices. We do not know. Minor league spring training is close to the public, so unfortunately, we usually cover minor league spring training, and we can't do that this year because it's close to the public. But we don't know which guys actually did the work by themselves and kept in shape or improved, or guys that just relaxed and got lazy and just took the time off to be themselves and not even worry about baseball. Well, we don't know who's who, and we'll find out right away once the minor league season starts on May 4th. But it's just a lot of stuff is up in the air in terms of player development, and they lost so much time and so much stuff that could have really helped out a lot of these guys. And when it comes down to it, no amount of practice can take away live game action. Game action
Exactly.
of anything else when it comes to developing players.
Yeah, with that, I'm going to bring up my own point about that. That kind of it differs, but it also relates to the same thing, guys. If you haven't already, everyone's socials who's in the discussion right now, it's in the description. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys for the ones who are commenting, liking, and subscribing and viewing right now. Obviously, we're discussing the Yankees. We'll do a little bit of MLB talk at the end, and obviously the Yankees preview. And with the actually, I was going to get to something, but I'll interrupt it with this. If anyone hasn't already, go check out Max Webster's channel. Yesterday, he texted me and he said, "Listen, he has his own. He's known across the Giants community. He does interviews of different content creators. I just happened to be, I'm going to be honest here. So it was like a last minute thing because somebody copped out at the last minute. I was happy to do it. Happy to be on his channel. So if you want to find out more about me, you go to that video right now. I think that's one of his longer podcasts. But what I'm going to say about this whole minor league thing and obviously the alternate site thing, I agree on all your points there. But also, with the amount of injuries that the Yankees had last season, and they didn't have that same magic as they did in 2019 in terms of the call-ups and the next man up. Guys like Mike Tauchman struggled, Mike Ford. And I really think also Miguel Andujar struggled after, being injured for a lot of 2019. And then guys like Thairo Estrada and all these other guys. And listen, as has been said many times in this discussion, games in the game energy cannot really – it's not the same as, playing a scrimmage against each other. It's just not. You're facing it's basically, if you want to relate it to, the NFL training camp this year. No preseason. What happened was a lot of injuries happened. And once again, going back to the MLB point of things, a lot of the players that were, the next man up, call-up guys, they didn't succeed in, 2020. Guys like Mike Ford struggled. And, I'm just laying down examples right there. And, how many times did Mike Ford get sent down? And I think that kind of impacted their roster spot because Mike Ford, he got sent down. Thairo Estrada, he got sent down. A lot of these guys got sent down. So I think it definitely has an impact, not just on the minor leaguers and the AA systems and all of that, but also on the ones that were an alternate site. And also, to add to that, I really think now he was, possible trade rumor, prospect for years. Estevan Florial made his debut last year. I remember it was against the Mets. I think he went like 1 for 4 or something like that. He was not ready. He just wasn't ready. They chose him to, go to the alternate site and whatnot, but he was projected to be like in AA in 2020 had everything gone normal, and he makes his debut. He just wasn't ready. And I think if the Yankees wanted to trade him, because we know they're good at like trading prospects for the big guys, like pitchers and stuff, I think he would have been on the trade block for them. But because he made his debut and he was he was prematurely in the big leagues, I think what happened was he didn't do well, and a lot of teams kind of just, shivered away from trading for him or anything like that. But definitely it does have an impact there.
Well, you got to remember Florial, one thing is last year he was coming off of missing almost 2 years with injury, and he was healthy and everything. And like you said, he wasn't even supposed to be that close to the majors. He was just on the 40-man roster. They needed an outfielder. I wouldn't say he had a bad debut. I mean, he had only 4 or 5 at bats. It wasn't really anything to really judge the guy on. But as long as he's healthy and he stayed healthy the entire year at the alternate site, you got to remember, at the alternate site, they have everything. All the data and everything was being collected, and that's being shared. So there's a lot of stuff out there that we just don't see from our perspective. And when it comes down, a lot of that information is going to be what drives these decisions. From my experience watching Florio play, the guy's one of the fastest people I've ever seen. He's got good power. He's one of the best defenders. He's a 5-tool guy. And healthy, you'll see him really, really quick. I think he's a guy who didn't lose as much time for development. You got to remember last year, the whole thing is they fired up spring training. Minor league spring training, it was literally the day minor league spring training started that they shut everything down. So they had those 200 players in camp and everything, and everything was shut down for a month or so. that takes a toll. That's an injury toll right there because all these guys revved up and they had to shut down right away, and then over the next month or two they had to get back into it. So it is. Last year was just a fluke all around. I really can't really judge anyone off of last year, but I'm anxious to see what Florio does this year because I believe he should be in AAA. You know, his time at the alternate side is equivalent to being in AA anyway, so let him go to AAA. He had a game in AA before, so it's not crazy. But what he could do, and with the contraction, a lot of these roster spots are at a premium. You'll go find a lot of guys that traditionally may have been in like high A are now in AA, and a lot of guys that would have been AA are in AAA. Just because these roster spots are at a premium, and they got so many young guys. Almost half of the Yankees' top prospects were below the single A level. They were all in the short season. And now all those short seasons are gone. They got to find places for these to play. And it is going to be interesting to see what happens. And Florio, like I said, I think, this year is going to be a very important year for him. Refresh my memory. I don't know. Did all the guys that got sent down last year get their option back?
That's a good question.
I don't think so because
somebody saying that, but
that's a good question. We'll have to look into that later.
Guys, like
I was going to add
You mean during the regular season?
Yeah, the guys that got sent down that were on the 40-man roster that were optioned down. So
yeah, like Mike Ford and all them.
They might have gotten their option.
They might have.
That's a good question. If they didn't get their option back, it'd be pretty unfair. Luca, you said you wanted to add something?
Well, I was going to add that we need the guys to step up again this year because it's not even so much on the hitting realm, the pitching realm too. Justin Wilson's on the IL. He was placed on the IL today, I believe it was. Also, Duhar's going to be IL. Chapman's going to be out for a few games. So it's not even in the hitting, just in the hitting aspect. The pitching aspect too, the guys got to step up.
Yeah, I mean, we're literally the day before for opening day, and all these guys are hitting their IL with new injuries. And I know the Yankees changed everything up last year and in the offseason in terms of conditioning and everything. But, man, that's got to be tough. I want to know what's going on with why these guys are getting hurt like this because – you can't really chalk this one off to the start and stop of last year because they had a regular off season to get things done.
Yeah. Just to quote two things in the chat. Potato, that's pretty much attraction in the money. There's no salary cap in baseball, so the Yankees pretty much can do that with any player, just the amount they want to spend. And Luca, you'll probably have to post your Twitter in the description. Either your ad
you want me to do that because it's back working again.
Okay. What was I going to say? One thing I was going to bring up that was part of the preview is that, obviously Major League Baseball is taking a jump from 162 to 60 from 2019, 2020. And then obviously now they're going back to 162. And the thing is, how are they going to adjust with, I've heard this phrase a lot of 6-man rotation. And we all know as Yankee fans that Aaron Boone loves to use the bullpen. He loves to use the bullpen days. He just generally loves to do that. And in my opinion, I don't think you can afford to really do that. If everybody's making, it is a big stretch, from 60 to 162. I just don't think with the lost season you had in the minor leagues, I just don't think that you can use as much bullpen days as you did in years past because of the transition. And then for guys like in the minor leagues, let's just say, Davy Garcia is involved in a bullpen day and he got the fair action last year. He was part-time at the alternate site. And then he got called up to the big leagues. But what if it's a guy like, I don't know, I don't really have a pitcher in name in mind. But what if, let's say this guy goes on the 40-man roster. You were saying?
I was going to say, what about Clark Schmidt?
Yeah, Clark Schmidt's starting on the IL as well.
Yeah.
What it comes down to is, so believe it or not, in the minors, they've been using 6-man rotations for the years. And how they've set up the minor league season this year is probably going to be similar to how it's set up for the future, where you have one off day a week, and you'll have guys that will pitch, once a week. What we've seen is whatever happens in the minors at some point it comes up to the majors. And I think this might be the year where we'll start seeing more 6-man rotations. What they'll do most likely is they'll send the guy down, call up the starter, he'll pitch, send him down, call back another bullpen arm, and the cycle continues. So they'll have 2 guys for that 6th spot so that they can cycle through. And
that's a good point.
And,
because, God.
No, I was just gonna say that's just inevitably be what happens is what they do in the minor leagues trickles up to the majors. When it comes down to it, they've been doing these 6-man rotations for a while in the minors, and it's worked pretty well. And when they get to the majors, they're thrown into a 5-man rotation. So it's time the majors sort of adjust, but we'll see what happens. And I'm very anxious because I expect them to use 2 guys as that 6th spot. They can send them down and call up a bullpen arm, etc.
You made a great point with the minor league stuff making its way to the majors. We saw some examples of that last year and even this year with the 7 innings and 7-inning doubleheaders, stuff like that. How do you feel about all these rule changes and all these experiments they're trying in the minors? Me personally, I'm a traditionalist. I don't like messing with the game too much, with the pace of play, stuff like that. How do you feel about all these experiments that they're trying down in the minors?
A lot of them I don't really have that much of an issue with. The ones I do have an issue with, I'm not a fan of the runner on second for extra innings. I'm not a fan of some of these other crazy little rules like the shift rule. I'm iffy on. Some of the other stuff like this pickoff rule, I'm making the larger bases okay with. That's not really going to be a big thing. The plan of them wanting to try out changing the mound and pushing the mound back, I'm not a fan of that at all. And that's something that they're not testing that in the minors. They're going to test that out in the Atlantic League. And I don't know what happened this year or next year, but it was supposed to happen in 2019. I'm not a big fan of that idea. A lot of those things are just like in the minors, the extra inning rule makes sense because the minors is development for the major league. So you don't want to keep throwing guys out there and blow out their arms. The majors, you don't have that issue. Why use that? And even so, it's a rule from international baseball. In international baseball, it's in the 10th inning. It's in the 11th inning, not the 10th. So I think that's something that could be adjusted at the minor league level a little bit. I'm a big fan of good pitchers. I'm a fan of small ball. I'm not a big fan of hitting home runs for the sake of hitting home runs. I like the guy drops a bunt and moves the runner over, or the speedster, the stolen base. I know they want to try to get back to that part of the game because that really is the most exciting part of the game. When you watch those old games back, and I just don't think a lot of these rule changes, like the kickoff rule and all that stuff that's supposed to encourage running, is really going to work out in the end. But that's why they experiment. There's so many different things that experiment with that. They just want to see if it works or not. And this is nothing new for baseball. It's happened. If you know baseball history, it's happened throughout baseball history. And it's not like they're doing what the Savannah Bananas are doing, completely changing the game of baseball. This is just little small tweaks here and there.
Let me respond to Potato's comment. Aren't those mostly gimmicks, like proper rule change, like managing making the strike zone electronic? I know they've been talking about that one for years. I actually interviewed a former MLB umpire a couple months ago. If you guys haven't already, go check that out. His name is Dale Scott. And he basically kind of put it down as, they just want perfection behind the plate when you're not going to get that. And I basically said to him, well, what if it glitches sometimes? What if it takes away jobs from umpires? It's going to be really interesting to see how they experiment with that stuff. And going back to when MLB was organizing an agreement earlier this year before spring training, the owners wanted expanded playoffs, and in return they were going to give the DH rule, which was the universal DH. And I personally, I like that rule. I'm kind of even on both sides because it is kind of interesting to see, the pitcher hit, but at the same time, for injury reasons, you really don't want to do that. And then for the expanded playoffs, I'm not a fan. I want to get your opinion on that.
Well, the expanded playoffs is the reason why the owners want that, is because they make all their money in the playoffs.
Right.
And the DH rule is something everyone wants because it means more offense, which means you sell more tickets as an owner, and it's less injuries to pitchers. So they're trying to offer it up as something, as it's like they're giving up something, but it's not. MLB is not really, I wouldn't say, forthcoming with a lot of stuff, and I think they're just not dealing in good faith with a lot of these negotiations. Expanded playoffs, I don't see the reason for it. I think you have too many issues there. When it comes down to when you have too many teams in the playoffs, like what's the point of a regular season?
Exactly.
Yeah, I have an idea. We'll make a regular season one game, and we'll have a 161 game playoff, and that's
Yeah.
But to the point of the electronic strike zone and the robo umps and all that, the technology they use is actually really, really good and really consistent. And the technology they use is called TrackMan. I don't know if any of you worked in baseball or done any stuff in baseball. This is the same stuff they use for StatCast. This is the stuff that powers StatCast and everything. So it is accurate into like a millimeter, like less than a millimeter. It is straight, really, really accurate. Now the problem comes in when you have a player that lies about his height and says he's an inch taller than he actually is, which happens. Things get adjusted. And then there's little things like by the rule book. If a ball, let's say this is the top of the strike zone, and if the ball is right here, just a little bit inside that strike zone, it's a strike. That's the rule book. And it's the rule book for a century. Now, an umpire would not call that a strike. A robo-ump would. So there's a lot of little tweaks here and there that needs to be made to the rules and how things are actually done for robo-umps, and that's why they're trying it out. It was actually a pretty successful test outside of the first few games and everything. And what happens is it's not going to replace jobs. You still have to have a home plate umpire for a lot of other things. But when it comes down to it, it really gives them the ability to get balls and strikes right, and which we've seen many a times with Aaron Judge at the plate or with Aaron Hernandez umpiring behind the plate. This can be an issue. And whether or not, minor league baseball umpires have been graded against the TrackMan for at least the last 5 or 6 years.
Interesting. Potato says, well, electronic won't be perfect, or it could be used as a challenge from coach. Well, if I think I know what you mean by that, but I don't think anyone's going to challenge a strike. I personally think the game would, I'm not for pace of play, but I think challenging a strike would be kind of stupid. Let's see. Yeah, since electronics glitch out a lot, would you say the MLB might be too conservative for its own good? I wouldn't say conservative. I think at definitely this stage in the game, they're kind of aggressive towards changing the game up in terms of the rules. Do I agree with it? No, but I would definitely not say that they're conservative.
I say MLB gets in their own way a lot. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And that's not just like on the field stuff. That's a lot of their marketing is just atrocious. A lot of the other stuff they do is just atrocious. They get in their own. It hurts the growth of the game.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let me just get to one thing real quick. Pictures of the staff. Let's see. I just want to get to. It's taking a little bit to load. At least the one thing I want to get to. So let's go to the pros and cons of 2020 for the Yankees, and obviously there's no minor leagues to talk about in terms of 2020. Definitely
right there. Player development took a big hit for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Something that they couldn't hit. They couldn't afford.
Yeah, and obviously going back to what I said earlier, some of the guys that were not like guys like Mike Ford and Mike Talkman, they didn't necessarily have the same magic as 2019. Then obviously you have guys like Estevan Florial. Yeah, sure, he only had like 5 at bats, 1 for 4, which isn't bad. That's a 250 average. But in terms of that, he was not ready. He was by far not ready. He was supposed to be in like AA at the time, and he'll probably be in AAA when that season starts. So as far as pros and cons of 2020 go, overuse of the bullpen, I definitely see that as a reason. Injuries play into that. Tommy Kahnle took a big hit, or at least the bullpen took a big hit after his injury, which kind of played into, the fall Adam Ottavino getting traded, the growing pains of Michael King and Clark Schmidt. Davey Garcia didn't really do that bad. The extensive use of analytics, obviously going to the bullpen days because that's what the computer tells you or whatever. Next man up magic expires. Regressions from Ford, Talkman, guys like that. And I think definitely Gleyber Torres took a hit in terms of offense and defense at playing at shortstop. What's up, Joseph? So
what it comes down to is 2020 was just a bad year overall, and I think the only the pros you could find is that we made it through. What it comes down to, and this isn't like a Yankees only thing. Just look at the injuries that was throughout baseball last year.
Right.
And it was beyond what we've ever seen, and a lot of it has to do with the start and stop and all that stuff. Cons a lot. No minor league season means that no development. A lot of these guys that needed time to develop and become better and be ready. There's a lot of guys I can think of that had there been a 2020 season would have been ready for the big leagues, and be ready for a spot start or a spot, hit, or anything. Because what it comes down to is, without a minor league season, you can't judge these guys that were in the low minors, and some of them would have rocketed up, and we just don't have that depth anymore. And with the contraction, you don't have the roster spots to assign that depth. So it's kind of perfect storm where it's just kind of really hurting the Yankees in the depth department.
Right.
Definitely. I do want to get to something before I toss it around the table to Sean and Luca and their thoughts on 2020. Joseph says on a different topic, Goodell wants to have full stadiums this upcoming season. That's going to be a challenge.
I want to get to Pittsburgh next year.
I want to go to MetLife with my license. And then, guys, if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Follow these guys on social media. The description the links are in the description. Sean, I want to toss it around to you because I know, obviously, we have talked a lot about 2020, and same thing with Luca.
Well, obviously, 2020 was terrible. You're right. At least we made it through. There is one positive. As far as injuries go, back to your point on the injuries, I would personally say part of what caused a lot of those injuries was, in my opinion, after everything that happened between the MLB, the Players Associations, the owner, I think they rushed their comeback big time. And I think with that short time to get ready, I think that caused a lot of issues. They were basically still in early spring training mode by the time the season got underway. I think my personal perspective, I think that is the reason for a lot of the, injuries, stuff like that. And, I think that also kind of hurts on-field product if you think about it, because if these guys aren't at full, 100% ready to go, it's going to look like a spring training game. Now, as far as, development stuff goes too, I think another thing that has been very underrated, and I think we're very lucky, I think where MLB might be a little bit more lucky with compared to other sports, is college baseball. With the draft and everything, it was unsure if they were going to even play this year. And obviously now we see they are playing. MLB has a bit of an advantage over other sports because they're playing their season. Obviously, there's some teams that pulled out of playing. There's some conferences that pulled out. But I think as far as developmentally, the development system goes, it might be a little bit better for MLB. Whereas you look at the NFL, where a lot of schools last year only played 4 or 5 games, stuff like that. So if there's one big takeaway from going into this upcoming MLB season, we're going to see a true endurance test we have maybe never seen before, where we're going to have to see pitchers put on pitch limits, innings pitched limits, because of coming off of a 60-game season. It's a short sprint called a shootout. So I'm very curious to see how everything's going to turn out this year. But as far as last year goes, I think the biggest problem that came from last year was just everything that happened with the Players Association, the owners, all of that. I think MLB really got in their own way with everything because of that last year. And I think it's put MLB in a very bad spot, coming out of last year. Luca?
I didn't really take 2020 as a regular baseball season, obviously. It was more of an experimental year for MLB. You could say it was good for other teams to experiment with the other players they have and whatnot. I think the whole owners players association feud was a big waste of time. I don't think they both. Well, in reality, it was just a big waste of time. You didn't get what you wanted. I think they compromised or whatever, but that's besides the point. You're putting yourself in jeopardy for years ahead. There might be a strike, whatever. I didn't really take 2020 as a real baseball season. I mean, the last real season I think they had was 2019, which was the year before, but I didn't really think much of 2020. I thought it was just a bad year in total, and I just took it as we're lucky to have baseball.
I definitely agree with that. Now a different topic. Well, we could try to say similar. Make or break players for 2020 in terms of the Yankees. Sean, you want to start it off?
That's a good question. Well, I would say it's definitely a make or break for Domingo Germán after everything he has gone through these last 2 years or so with the suspensions and all of that. So I definitely think it's make or break for him. Andujar's another one, with him being trade bait at this point, and who knows how they're going to use him. So it's hard to say. I think personally one of the bigger players that hasn't been talked about enough is Luis Severino. After several years of injuries and problems, he needs to prove he can still pitch at a high level. And if Luis Severino cannot prove that, it doesn't look good for him. So my biggest make or break player, I would probably say, is Luis Severino. Luca?
I agree with all of Sean's make or break players, but I also factor in Mike Tauchman, because he could easily be used as trade bait for the Chicago White Sox since they are down Eloy Jimenez. He's going to be out for 5-6 months. And one interesting thing is maybe you trade Mike Tauchman and maybe get some bullpen help. Would that be such a bad idea?
No.
So I allude to everything Sean was saying, but Tauchman needs to have a better year. He needs to show his value on the field. I think he's a solid fringe player, but I think he still could be used as trade bait.
Robert?
For me, the ultimate make or break year is Clayton Frazier.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Clayton Frazier fan, and I think he's gotten a lot of crap for no reason by the New York media. And I think he's a guy that if they let him play and let him be the everyday player, he could turn some heads. And I believe in his bat. I believe in his fielding. He's not a gold glove guy. He's not like a plus defender. He's an average defender, maybe a little bit above average. But he is a lot better than what he's shown in the majors. And I think it's about time that he steps up and turns some heads, because I think this is his time.
I agree with that. How do we generally as a group feel about Gary Sanchez's job security as the catcher? I really don't think. I mean, I'm a batting average guy. I'm a small ball guy. Don't always hit the homer, go for base hits, go for doubles, whatever. He is not doing that. He doesn't necessarily provide the effort, in my opinion, to run the ball out to first base. And with that, I really have issues with that. And I think his job should kind of be on the line there, but I just don't think that Aaron Boone kind of has the guts to kind of say, listen, we're going to pull you. Because even with the benching last year, however you want to frame it or whatever, he put Gary Sanchez 2 games in after he said, they were benching him. So Sean, Robert, and then Luca on the Gary Sanchez topic.
I think it's a make or break. I'm not counting him out. I'm not doubting him because he has shown us what he is capable of. I'm not counting him out, but he does. I noticed in spring training he was still making some of the same mistakes that he was making last year, and I think, this isn't even just Sanchez. I think it's the entire Yankee offense. They need to stop trying to hit the home run. They need to stop trying to be, these power hitters when, what's wrong with the double to the gap? It makes the game more exciting, A, for the fans, and B, it's just there's no need to always try to be the hero. It's a team game. It's not meant to be carried by one person. It's a team game, and everybody needs to contribute. And if everybody's trying to hit the home run, then practically no one's contributing. So I think the biggest thing Gary Sanchez needs to change, and really, the whole offense, they need to stop trying to be the home run hitters, because sure, home runs are great, but it's not everything.
I agree with you there, and I'm a big Gary Sanchez fan. I've known Gary for many, many years, since he was a 17-year-old kid, and I think, it's time for him to, like Clayton Frazier. I know he's better than what he's seen, he's given us in the majors so far, and I want to see it.
Luca?
For Gary Sanchez, I think it says something that the Yankees played Higashioka in the playoffs last year. They started him in like Game 5, I believe it was, guys. They started him in it was around Game 5. It's a bit of a warning sign that when your best starting pitcher does not want to be caught by Gary Sanchez, and this is a make or break year for him, as we've all alluded to. But when we're talking about not swinging for the home run and all, I don't think it's just the Yankees. I think it's how MLB has absorbed their product as a whole. There's no situational baseball. There's no stealing of the bases. There's no hit and runs. There's no, runner on second. You're going to try to get the guy to third. You're going to try to hit a home run nowadays, and that's what sucks. And the analytics alluded to is ridiculous. Everybody's swinging for the homer, but it's not just the Yankees. It's Major League Baseball as a product.
Definitely.
My question is, if you said how stealing bases and all that, it's almost gone out the door at this point. If that's the case, then my question is, why is Tyler Wade still on the roster? I really want to know, because I know they love him for his speed, but he's still not exactly the best. Hasn't exactly done a lot of good for the Yankees these last couple years.
Yeah, and I was watching a live stream from Unhinged Yankees a couple of days ago, and I asked them the question because I really think that these two, I would say a fair comparison. You're not comparing an infielder or an outfielder. I think two guys, obviously Tyler Wade or Thairo Estrada, and they said it like I would say it. Thairo Estrada has more offensive upside. Now, as your dad said, Sean, that one day, why are they doing that? Why are they keeping Tyler Wade on the roster when they don't necessarily do the small ball type of things? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do this year. It's either they're going to have to change their game, or Tyler Wade is just, a 26-man on the roster for no reason. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And one question I posed to everybody, and you could say why, you could state your reasoning. Do you think Judge and Stanton will play 100 games each this season, Sean?
Well, I know they changed their workout regimen over the offseason. Now they've gone to yoga. I I say so. I think with the change in the workout and stuff like that, easing up on everything in the weight room, I think that's a better idea. And for now, I'm going to say yes. Could I be wrong? Yes, it's very possible looking back at the last couple of years. But for now, yeah, I say yes.
Rob?
I'm just like, come back to me. Give me a moment.
Luca?
It's okay.
Hold on one second. I mean, well, I'm sorry. I got lost for a second. What was the topic?
Judge and Stan.
Judge and Stan? Oh, okay. It's so hard to believe. I mean, I want them to play 100 games each. Not even over 100 games, but it's like I don't want to rely on past history, but I mean, I don't know, honestly. I'm so unsure.
We all just talked about how much we need to get away from home run or bust, and these two guys are home run or bust.
Yeah.
Listen, don't diss yoga. Yoga works, especially if you have a bad back. But what it comes down to is, I just don't know. Like, it just so many times. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And at this point, what can we say?
I definitely think Judge can play more games than Stanton. Not because Stanton's older, but just because Judge has stuck it out before. He stuck it out in 2017, and that was the year Stanton, of course, hit how many home runs, and then he gets traded to the Yankees, and obviously injury bug hits him. So I definitely think that Aaron Judge, if it's going to be one of them two playing over 100 games this season, maybe close to 162, that's not going to happen because of the amount of power they exhibit. But like something like if it's going to be like 120 or something like that, it's going to be a Judge, and I don't think anybody can disagree with that. Now, here's the next question. Who poses the biggest threat in the AL East to the Yankees? Now, obviously, the Rays lost a couple of pitching arms in the offseason, and then now the Blue Jays had some injuries in spring training, Kevin Biggio, George Springer, whatever. Sean?
That's the $1 million question right there. Obviously, the Rays lost some pieces, but I think what people are forgetting is they added some really good prospects. The guy they got from the Padres, if I remember it correctly, I believe his name was Luis Patino. He is pretty much, I believe, major league ready. So the Rays, it's going to come down to Rays and Blue Jays as the biggest threat to the Yankees. Personally, I'm going to go with Toronto, actually. I believe they've made some they have a very talented roster, and their guys are starting to develop very nicely. Now, obviously, we mentioned the injuries are a problem, but I just feel like that offensive power, it's going to be tough for the Yankees, and it's going to really put their pitching to the test. So I'm going to say Toronto, but don't sleep on Tampa Bay either. I'm not sleeping on Tampa because they could easily be as big of a threat as they were last year.
Rob?
Baltimore. Joking. Toronto's the biggest threat, and if any of you've ever seen any of these guys Toronto has, they are phenomenal and they are legit. And when it comes down to, they are what the Yankees should have been a few years ago, young in their prime and going for it, and they're going for it. And the Yankees really need to step up their game, because this Toronto team is hungry and they want it.
Okay.
I mean, the Toronto team can do many different things, and I think Toronto is the runner-up to the Yankees this year. They're going to be I think they'll be second and maybe vie for a wild card spot as they did last year. Also to note, George Springer did go on the IL, so that's worth noting. But anyway, I was going to go back to the Aaron Judge front. I was going to say this is kind of a prove-it year for him. Not so much like a prove-it year, but like prove it, I want an extension, big money. Like, is he going to be healthy enough to get that extension? Is he going to prove that he can stay on the field?
That's a good point.
Definitely interesting.
I got a question, though, to add to those that say Toronto is the biggest threat. Do you guys think that, since we don't know if the Blue Jays are going to be returning to Canada or not this year, it's hard to say with everything going on. Anything could change at any moment. Do you think with the Blue Jays technically not having a home stadium right now, because obviously they can't stay in Dunedin because they got they got a minor league team down there that plays. So I don't think they could stay in Dunedin. Where are they going to play once Double A and Single A season starts? And is that going to wear the Blue Jays down to where it does put the Rays above Toronto and being a threat?
Well, I think they are starting in Dunedin, but you also got to remember they have a huge complex in Dunedin, just like the Yankees have a huge complex in Tampa. And if they have to tell the Dunedin team, you're going to play your home games on the complex fields, they're going to play at the complex fields. It's not going to make a big difference. When it comes down to is those Florida State League teams or whatever they want to call that league now don't draw anyway. So it doesn't matter. And the major league team is going to get the big stadium. And there's plenty. If they need to move the Dunedin to another stadium, you can't spit without hitting 2 professional baseball stadiums in Florida, especially in that area of Florida. So,
yeah.
Now I got another question. Who is the last place team in our division this year?
Ooh. I'm going to say Baltimore, just because they're still rebuilding, and I still think they got a ways to go. Now they do got some promising pieces, I will admit, with Mancini and all them, but they're obviously nowhere near Major League ready, so I'm going to say Baltimore. But to add, Boston, that's an interesting team because they obviously, nobody expects them to be good. Their pitching staff, it's hard to say with Boston. Their pitching staff's not great. I mean, they got Nathan Eovaldi, but
Chris Sale be?
I'm sorry.
No, I said, what will Chris Sale be once he returns from Tommy John? That's going to be a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see how Boston's going to play this year. I think their role in the AL East, I think they're going to be the team that plays spoiler to somebody, whether it's the Yankees, the Blue Jays, or the Rays. I think they're going to be a team that could play spoiler in costing someone the division. But I'm going to say Baltimore for your question.
Rob?
To me, it's no question. It's going to be Baltimore. And I think the Red Sox team will be a little bit better than people expect. Just knowing how much they've rated the Yankees in the Rule 5 draft last year and some of these players that they got, I think, they may be a little bit better than some people may expect.
Luca?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Baltimore as well, but I think they're fun. They're going to be a little bit of a fun team to keep an eye on. They got some interesting prospects. They do add veterans like they did last year to mature the young guys, I feel. Like they signed, I think, Felix Hernandez, but I think he opted out. Matt Harvey made the team. It's going to be a fun team to watch. Players like Ryan Mountcastle, Anthony Santander, Trey Mancini, as Sean mentioned. They'll be a fun team, but I don't think they're ready to be like 4th or 3rd or move up in the standings just yet.
Now, are we surprised, before we go into a big Major League perspective, are we surprised about anyone who got cut from the Major League roster or at least got sent down?
From the Yankees? Not really. I mean, I think we all kind of see Herman beating out Garcia.
Yeah.
Garcia seemed to kind of struggle this spring training, so I'm not too surprised. I think I was a little surprised that Justin Wilson actually, I know he's on IL, but I'm surprised he made the roster considering the way he struggled this spring training. But my biggest surprise, well, I really shouldn't say it's a surprise because of how well he pitched, but Lucas Licky, he was the biggest surprise out of spring training. He pitched really well, so I'm curious to see how he's going to play or how he's going to pitch in the Major League level.
Rob, any surprises?
No, not really. Like I wasn't really expecting Debbie to get the fifth spot in the rotation. I still think he needs a little bit more seasoning down AAA, and it's better for him to be pitching regularly down there than in the bullpen. When it comes down to it, we got to figure out what's going on with Herman, and that's just such a big if, and it's going to be something that haunts this team this year, especially early on.
Luca?
I really wanted Derek Dietrich to make the roster just to stick it to Tyler Wade, but anyway, I didn't really have any surprises. I didn't think Davey Garcia was ready at all, even with last season, but I didn't really have any surprises.
And a lot of people were actually saying this was before the cuts. They were saying before the cuts, like Dietrich and everybody, are Talkman and Bruce going to be on the same, they're going to be on the roster together, or is one of them going to get cut? And I think what really opened that hole up was the fact that Luke Voigt went on the DL. And because they didn't keep Mike Ford on the roster, DJ LeMahieu's not going to play first base all the time. I mean, he will occasionally. But I definitely want to see what Bruce does because, let's see, last year I think he was with Philly or if he was another team. But I really want to see him get his career back on track. I think he still has some gas in the tank. And what was I going to say? Lucas Lidge, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And as Sean put it, he pitched well in spring training. And with that, he hasn't pitched in a major league game since 2015. And there's not a lot of guys in the major leagues who stick around that long. So I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see, is it just a spring training fluke or is he actually going to come on, pitch like, someone like Justin Wilson would or whatever. But also just on a major league perspective, any teams around the league that the Yankees should be secretly scared of or just in general secretly scared of, Sean?
Should be scared of.
I say the White Sox.
That's a good question. Yeah, but the big question with them is how are they going to perform without Eloy Jimenez? So I'm curious to see where the White Sox are. As far as their biggest threat, I'm still going to stick with Toronto because I think they're a very serious and hungry team. So I'm still going to stick with Toronto as biggest threat to the Yankees.
I can't disagree. I gotta agree with you there. I think when it comes to just how everything's set up this year, you have to look in division and Toronto and the Rays. We looked at how bad the Yankees were against the Rays, and they need to spice things up and change things up there. So those two teams are going to be the most difficult ones and the ones that they really need to pay attention to.
Luca?
Yeah, I still think the White Sox are somewhat of a threat. I think they have a very solid pitching staff when it comes to rotation and bullpen. But Sean mentioned that it is a question that Eloy Jimenez is going to be out for probably 6 months. Do they trade for an outfielder? Do they rely on a backup or somebody like that? Does Luis Robert really step up? Because I think he had a solid rookie season, but ultimately, I think it's going to come down to Chicago White Sox or the Toronto Blue Jays, in my opinion.
Interesting to say the least. Which team has taken, or at least which one of the teams has taken a big drop off this offseason, or which team will stick at the bottom of their division, Sean?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, which team just let's put it bluntly, consistently sucks, or which team kind of lost the offseason in terms of losing players?
All around MLB, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the Pirates are probably gonna be like one of the worst teams in MLB. They lost a lot last year. I did an article on them for Uncut. They lost obviously Chris Archer,
Josh Bell.
The Pirates. I'm just gonna put it this way: it's gonna be a long time before they are good again. I'm sorry to say that, considering I am a Steelers fan, so I know a lot of Pittsburgh sports fans, and I feel bad saying that, but I think the Pirates are that consistently bad team that really did lose the offseason.
Pirates is just. I feel bad for their fans because their owner, his name, is really one of the worst owners ever, and he is the prime example of one of these owners that is just looking to score a quick buck. And
yeah, you're right.
And I think you're right. Pirates. It sucks. For in our division, obviously Baltimore, but Pirates. Atlanta's pretty good. I'm trying to think. Houston's pretty good. What's going on with Seattle? I didn't even see what they've done this off season. Have they done anything or?
Well, I would like to really see what happens in the Central because that's like the NFC East of MLB. I want to see what they do because obviously, what's their faces? The Cardinals lost Colton Wong, but they re-signed Wainwright and Yadier Molina. You were saying?
And they got Arenado, right?
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, Arenado. Obviously, they still got Goldie. So it'll be interesting what goes on there because they got the Brewers, the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Pirates, and I'm missing one team. Let's see.
The Reds.
The Reds, yeah.
Oh, the Reds are
that. I think they took a step back with losing Trevor Bauer last year. I think they jumped. They were still in the process of a rebuild. They got a little optimistic, and they went out and got all these. They went out. Now they're trying to be a win now team, and I think that's going to backfire big time.
Another question: Do we think the LA Dodgers could be repeat champions?
Look how tough that's been in baseball the last few decades. Very, very few teams have been able to pull that off.
The Yankees were the last to do it.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I could call that, but they got as not as any because I think they're just an incredibly strong team.
Yeah, I believe. I still think they are. They're obviously. I still think they're the best in the National League. I think the Padres are a threat. I don't think the Padres are getting past the Dodgers. I am not convinced. I need to see more from San Diego to really see if they can dethrone the Dodgers. I mean, that's going to make for some great local arguments. I can already imagine in Southern California between Dodgers and Padres fans. But I think they're going to win the National League again. But will they win the World Series?
Well, let's put it this way. The Yankees last year underperformed for their talent level. Severely underperformed. If the Yankees performed to where they should have, they could have given the Dodgers a run for their money.
Yeah, and if you remember 2019, the Yankees beat the Dodgers in LA 2-1 in that late regular season series. So they've proven that they can beat a team like that in their stadium. So I think if the biggest threat to the Dodgers in defending their World Series is going to be the Yankees. If they can play to their potential, who knows? We could get the classic Yankee-Dodger World Series that I know lots of fans have been begging for because you can honestly say it's two of the
TV stations are begging for.
Yeah. It'll be two of the biggest fan bases in the country going at it. So, and two of the biggest cities too, no less. So I'm gonna say the Dodgers repeat, but I think if there's a team standing in their way, there's two teams that are gonna stand in their way. It's gonna be the Padres and the Yankees. But let's not forget too. I just remembered too. Let's not forget the Braves were a game away from beating the Dodgers and moving to the World Series. So we can't. I'm going to add a third team. I'm going to say the Braves are also a huge threat in that National League because again they were up 3-1. So I think the Braves are another sleeper team. Maybe not a sleeper team, but a big threat.
With that, I was just thinking of also stuff to discuss. How do we this one's going to be interesting. I mean, it's kind of like predicting the NL Central, but it's more power inside of you. It's not like the NFC East. How do we predict from top to bottom or bottom to top the standings for the NL East? Do we really buy into the Mets hype? Do we really buy into the Phillies? Do we really I want to get all your thoughts on that.
I'll let Rob go first.
I think the Mets. I said it when he bought the team. The balance of power in all of baseball has shifted.
Yes.
And I know this knowing that the Mets were so behind the times in terms of player development and advanced stats and all this other stuff. But Steve Cohen is rapidly, faster than any other team, adjusting and changing things in that organization. And I think if there's anyone that can do what we are expecting the Mets to do, it's Cohen. He has the money. If you add up the net worth of every MLB owner, you're still below the net worth of Steve Cohen. Yeah, that's how much this guy is worth. And he's shown already he's willing to put that money into that team. And I think the Mets may not be this year.
Right.
But in the very near future is going to be a powerhouse in that National League.
I would say I agree with you 100%. I think the one thing Mets fans need to realize, they need to be patient. They can't go out, and don't get me wrong, if I were a Mets fan, I would be super excited about what they got coming up. But they need to be patient. It's not all going to happen in 1 year. I give it time, but I do give them a lot of credit because of, getting new ownership, with Cohen buying the team, because now the Mets actually they don't look like a small market team anymore. They actually look like a big market New York City team that, you need to be a big market. It almost feels like you need to be a big market team in order to succeed in MLB. No disrespect to the small market teams, but I just know it's a lot harder for them to succeed, as we've pointed out before. But I give the Mets fans a lot of. I'm sorry, not Mets. I give the Mets a lot of credit for the moves they've made. I agree. I think they're going to be a huge powerhouse, but they need to prove it first. And I think it starts with this year at least showing that they can compete. Personally, to your question about the standings in the National League, I still got the Braves this year. The National League East is very stacked.
It's too close to predict.
You're right.
Teams.
You're right, because you got the Braves, who we already know can perform at a high level. The Nationals have overcome a lot. I think they're going to bounce back after a tough last year. I think they haven't, they need to get back to where they were in 2019. The Phillies, they're a sleeper team because, some days they look like a top tier contender. Some days they just look average. So the Phillies, it's really hard to say. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from Phillies fans, but
with Joe Girardi, with those Yankee teams that Joe Girardi coached and managed, he got more out of them than anyone ever expected.
Right.
And I think that says a lot about his capabilities as a manager. And I think that's going to be a big thing for Philly. Yeah,
I agree 100% because, he has proven, as you said, that he can take an average team and turn them really good. Now, personally, I don't think the Yankees. I was never on the train to get rid of Joe Girardi. I always wanted him to be a Yankee. So, no disrespect to Aaron Boone. I like Aaron Boone. It's just I always liked Girardi better.
No, he doesn't. He's lying.
Yeah, okay. It's not Boone I get mad at. It's more just the analytics department. But I do agree. I think he can rally that Philly team. Yeah, and the only other thing I ask you guys, too, is how do we feel about the Marlins? It seems like a silly question, but last year they shocked a lot of people by making the playoffs. I know that I don't think they're a division winner, but could they be a wild card team that people are kind of underrating? How do you guys feel about the Marlins?
I don't think they're there yet, but I gotta say, what Jeter's been doing stealthily in Florida has been tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Luca?
Yeah, I was going to add, like, most Marlins fans, when Jeter got there, like, how is he going to handle this one? People hated him early on as owner because he traded away Stan, he traded away Yelich, he traded away Marcell Ozuna, and it looks like they got a bunch of young guys for it, and I like them a lot. They're kind of the Orioles of the National League, but they're still a fun team. I don't think they're, as Robert said, I don't think they're there yet. But I want to mention something that we talked about previously, like about a couple minutes ago. I think you guys forgot a team that was, should say, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The word not improved. Give me somebody give me a word.
Stagnant.
They regressed over the offseason. I think the Chicago Cubs are in free fall right now. They lost Yu Darvish.
Yeah.
Javier Baez is waiting on an extension. Chris Bryant's been mentioned in trade talks. I think that is the biggest team in free fall right now. Nobody knows what's going on with them.
Yeah, and they still got a lot of those key guys are free agents after this year. I think Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez, if I remember correctly, are all free agents coming up this offseason. So this really, if the Cubs can't get them back, it could be it for their run. You know, obviously their pitching regressed big time. You know, I don't think Jake Arrieta is going to be what he was when he was with the Cubs originally. Because I'll be honest, living off of old glories, it doesn't work. It's not a formula for success. So,
As those 2000 Yankee teams.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. But this really could be it for the Cubs, and I think last postseason was a sign that this could really be the end of their run. I like the Cubs. You know, I still think they got a lot of talent, but they could be a threat this year. But again, they don't get these deals done. I think that's it for them for this championship run.
Going back on the point that Joe Girardi gets the most out of his teams, in my least favorite year, 2013, as a Yankee fan, for all that happened, any other manager, aside from a very small few, would have been under 500. I think
I agree.
Let me look at that the record from that year. Some of those just the players from that
We were
year.
like
84 and 78 or 85 and 77.
I want to say 85 and 77. Like we had a bunch of.
You're right.
You also got to remember, we had a bunch of injuries. Jeter wasn't 100%. A-Rod wasn't 100%. Teixeira wasn't 100%. Granderson was injured. And that's what played into the 2013 season.
You can even look at 2016 when they started off really badly. I think they were like 16 and 27 at one point.
They were 9-17 to start.
Yeah. You can look at all those young guys that they brought up and started playing, like Tyler Austin, Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge. He made that into a very I call it a very fun year, because after that tough start, seeing when the Yankees truly started that rebuild, it showed the capability of a lot of those young guys that I think Joe Girardi was responsible for a lot of their success. So I think 2016 is another perfect example. He led a rebuilding team to, I believe it was an 84 win season. So that was a fun year.
It was a fun year, and I think it shows rebuilding doesn't have to take how many years. The Yankees rebuilt, 1 year? The Yankees traded Miller. The Yankees traded Chapman. The Yankees traded Carlos Beltran. They traded Devon, all these prospects. And look what we're getting now. Since we traded Andrew Miller, we got, what's his name? Clint Frazier. He's going to be our starting left fielder now. So you really don't have to rebuild in just – there's no more 5-year plans in sports anymore. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm sitting here watching the Knicks. That's what I've been doing. The Knicks have rebuilt fine. They're still sticking to the rebuild, and they got a lot of young guns, I should say. and you don't have to rebuild in there's no more 5-year plans or whatever anymore.
I think you also need
the Yankees have resources that other teams just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the problem with MLB. And I remember I watched this. It was a video from UT made, I want to say 2 years ago. That's the one thing that sucks about a lot of these small markets. You look at Pittsburgh, you look at Kansas City, Cincinnati. They don't have the resources that teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, they don't have those resources. And I think that's where the problems lie in MLB is no salary cap leads to problems like this, as we alluded to I want to say a week or two ago. It's just that's the big problem with the small markets, and I feel bad. I really do. Like I said, I know plenty of Pirates fans, and they're just aching to at least have a 500 season. I can sort of relate being a Knicks fan, but it's tough. It really is tough.
Luca, potatoes. Well, I mean, this is not necessarily regarded towards you, Luca, but you probably know the best as a Knicks fan. Haven't the Knicks been rebuilding since 1999?
They really haven't been consistently great since 1999. Let's be honest. I mean, 2004 was I think it was 2004 they made the playoffs with Stephon Marbury. 2010, 11, 12 they made the playoffs with Melo. There was never a consistent success. I mean, that's what he's saying there. It was never consistent success. It wasn't like the 90s teams where we went to the playoff. The Knicks went to the playoffs every single year with Ewing and Charles Oakley, John Starks, Latrell Sprewell, and everybody else. There hasn't been consistent success.
Going back to that, was someone going to say something?
No.
All right. Yeah, going back to that, you need good coaching. And though, many times with, I guess, going back to the Knicks, even though we're talking about MLB, you need good coaching. And, they had a lot of young guys over the years. And everyone remembers David Fizdale as not being the best coach than Mike Miller. Now we have Tom Thibodeau as the coach. And the talent isn't necessarily the greatest. And you kind of compare it to the Giants in football. The talent wasn't the greatest, but, he made up for that with the good coaching staff. And I think definitely teams across the league in different leagues, they definitely need that. And once again, I think really a couple of years ago when the MLB failed to implement a salary cap, I think that just hurt small market teams. You see, it's definitely, I would say, a tale of two sports. You have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are Super Bowl champions how many years ago? 2 years ago. Then you have the Kansas City Royals, who are in an absolute dumpster fire right now. You could make the same case for Baltimore Ravens versus the Baltimore Orioles. Those are just some teams I'm throwing out there that it's the tale of two things. MLB failed, and you know what? Going back to NFL free agency, for anyone viewing that's like an NFL fan or whatever, yeah, sure, the cap didn't exist, but this year because of teams trying to make different deals, with the cap restrictions and the pandemic stuff. But going back to what I said, it's a tale of two sports. So I'm going to bring on one guest. He's frequently on here. I don't know if he's much of a baseball fan, but he can provide some insight just, going back from some of the other sports. Potato's here. Potato,
hello.
How you doing?
Quite good. Quite good. Yeah, my phone didn't break today, so that's positive.
Good. So, though we are having a baseball discussion, what are some things you could kind of connect?
Baseball, I think you said coaching. We can see how coaching can make a difference. Let's use Giants example. How much coaching improved us. We changed the coach, and now actually people want to join the Giants. Or the difference if you look at, for example, Jets. They managed to win few games last year, but they switched the coach, and now it's even worse.
Yeah.
The coaching makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, the same with the Knicks. But again, going back to how many times a lot of these teams, small market teams, and then when you have the talent, some coaches just cannot improvise on that, and they end up failing and they end up getting fired. But just as a general question across the table, MVP candidates, two soon MVP candidates for the MLB season? Sean?
I'm gonna be most generic probably here, but I'm probably just gonna. I'll keep it simple. I think Mike Trout is still the best player in the game, and I'm gonna give it to him. You can make debates too, Mookie Betts, Fernando Tatis, but I'm gonna stick with. I'm gonna take the safe route and say Mike Trout.
I mean, can you really say anyone else? I think Trout is still the best player in the game, no matter how much they suck at marketing him. He is by far the best player in the game, and as much as I like Betts and some of these others, I just think Mike Trout has everything that should be a baseball player, and he needs to be out in front more in terms of being the face of the game.
Right.
I really don't know who else to say. It's Mike Trout. That's my answer. I mean, he's the best player in baseball. What else do I have to say?
Now for that, thoughts in the back of my head.
Oh yeah, he's the one who does everything. Yeah.
Potato, any insight you want to add?
No, not really. The only thing I remember, from what I know, Mike Trout the word, he being the one of the best players, but never having success because he plays the baseball equivalent of Texans, where they can't do anything.
Yeah.
So another topic that I kind of want to bring up and just discuss around the roundtable is that the last couple of years, what are we thinking of these multi-year, 14-year extensions, like what they did with Tatis, what they did with Trout, what they did with Harper? What are we thinking of it? And do teams, kind of benefit or do they not benefit because of no salary cap? What if their players are hurt? Sean, I'll give you the floor.
I'll keep it very simple. I think on-field quality is going to hurt in the long run. My personal reasoning behind that is sooner or later these teams aren't going to be able to afford. Okay, let's look at the Baltimore Orioles, for example. They got obviously that big contract with Chris Davis. He signed that big long contract, and we see now what he's turned into. I'm not saying all players are going to be like that, but it almost feels as if these long-term contracts, when they come towards the end, on-field play is going to hurt. It's going to make front office decisions that much harder, and I think it's going to hurt. Actually, I think it's going to hurt more than it's going to help anyone.
Now, before we get to Rob's opinion on that, would it hurt? It would obviously hurt more would it hurt more or less in a salary cap MLB, in your opinion?
Oh, it would hurt more because you can't pay for anyone else. I mean, you got that big contract eating your entire money, eating all your money. Who else are you going to spend money on? You're going to have to just hope and pray that you can build through the draft and through the farm system.
We've seen what one or two of these bad contracts can do to a team firsthand. And as good as a player is, the end of those contracts, it's going to be a struggle. Case in point, Jacoby Ellsbury. Or even, CeCe, before he reinvented himself, it was a struggle with him. And it's true with all these contracts for these guys going into those older ages. Well, short term, it's okay. Long term, it's going to be a noose around these teams' neck if the owners continue to try to put an unofficial salary cap in like they have with the luxury tax.
Yeah.
Luca?
I honestly, as Sean said, it does hurt when you actually have a salary cap, and MLB in one aspect is fortunate to not have one. I also do think it hurts when it's like when you're paying a player for a small market team, let's say the Orioles, the Angels, and all those other teams. It's like going to restrict you from spending on other areas of need.
The Phillies are a perfect example because they've went out and spent so much money, and coming into this season, they had practically nothing this time. I don't know how they were able to extend JT Realmuto, but the Phillies are a perfect example because they went out, they've spent so much money, and they're still not even that great. And in the long run, that's going to really hurt.
I didn't even think they were going to re-sign Realmuto. All we heard this offseason was they couldn't afford to keep Realmuto. They couldn't afford him. He ends up re-signing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting example right there.
Well, I got a question real quick for Rob because I know he's got to go soon. I'm going to ask the $1 million question because I know a lot of Yankee fans are in love with this guy. What do you see for Jason Dominguez this upcoming, season and in the next couple of years? How do you feel about him right now, and what do you see in the long run for him?
So let me preface this by saying I have not seen Dominguez in person. I've only seen video, and I've talked to coaches and front office people that have seen him. He is a special kind of talent. From everything I'm told, he is a very special kind of talent. And he is someone that they love in terms of not just his raw skills, but his makeup, his mentality, the way he approaches the game, his maturity. It is sort of unheard of to find someone with his level of talent and his level of maturity and his level of understanding and coachability. And we're going to see him start off likely in Tampa. So he's going to go into low A, and he's going to start off down in Tampa most likely.
Right.
Roll him out coming up to Hudson Valley at some point during the year. But also, I want you guys to remember this is still his very first professional season. He has yet to play a professional game at all, at any level. So if he's starting off and he's hitting 250, don't sound red alarm bells just yet. There's a lot of stuff that's going along. Do I think he's going to come out hitting 250? No, I think he's going to be putting on a show for everyone. And it's going to be a very, very interesting time to watch because he is such a once-in-a-generation type talent that the Yankees usually never get.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to be the most fun guy to watch, and he's going to bring a lot of eyes on that Yankees minor league system that has a lot of sleeper guys that are not, highly touted, and guys that are just good ball players. And I think this could help elevate the entire system.
One more question. Sean knows my, I would say, favoritism towards this guy and also another player. How hard, and those two players, let me specify, is Trey Ombergy and Chris Gittins. They're not prospects, so they're not as looked at as someone like a Davey Garcia and a Jason Dominguez. How hard is it for them to try to get up to the big leagues? It's kind of like a Kyle Higashioka thing because he's been in the system since 2008, and he only got to make his impact. What was it last year as the backup catcher?
Yeah.
Well, Higgy's situation is a little bit more is a little bit different because he's dealt with a multitude of injuries early on in his career that really cost him a lot of time. But he was one of those guys that was a highly thought of prospect back then. And Gittins and Ambergy, I'm huge fans of. Two great people, two of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And Gittins, such incredible power. It's sort of very, very sad that he's with the Yankees because with any other team, he might be getting a shot. Ambergy, again, it's a shame he's with the Yankees because with any other team, he would have a chance in the big leagues. And I just don't think it's there for them. You got another guy I throw into that group is Kyle Holder. Guys are just blocked at any which way. And they're going to be in AAA, but in reality, they should be, on a major league roster, and they could be a great get for one of these smaller market teams that need a first baseman, needs a shortstop, or needs an outfielder, and doesn't want to pay free agent pricing. These guys are such good players and good people that they deserve a shot. But when it comes to with the Yankees, I just don't see a way of it happening.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, smaller market teams. And I think we definitely saw that with somebody who couldn't really make it in New York with I would say, short timing. Chance Adams, he was a prospect for a little while, and he got traded to Kansas City. I'm pretty sure he's not with them anymore. If he is, then that's my mistake. But I really wanted to see Chance Adams work out. It was unfortunate, but some guys just can't handle New York, whether they're young, they're old. I mean, we saw that with Sonny Gray, but Sonny Gray was a different story that I didn't really have hype in after, his last season with the Yankees. And then he started talking about, it's New York media or what. I don't know what he said.
He criticized the team because they kept making him throw. I think it was the changeup, if I remember correctly, or something. I forget. All I know is he blamed the team for his struggles.
Yeah, that's
Larry. He blamed Larry Rothschild.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see how he does with the pitching staff he's got now in San Diego. I mean, you got Darvish, you got Snell, you got some of the other pitchers over there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of the NL West. But Rob, if you like, you could. If you want, and obviously said you had to go, so I'll let you go if you want. And obviously, thank you for coming on once again, taking the time out of your day.
Anytime. I'm happy to do it. And unfortunately, I do have to get going. I do have some other stuff I got to take care of tonight. And, I appreciate it, guys, and happy to talk.
Happy to talk. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, yeah.
All right, so that was Robert. Probably going to start wrapping it up in the next minute or so, even this is probably one of the shorter episodes that we've done. But
it's 1 hour shorter than usual.
Yeah, because we usually go 2 hours, 2.5. Definitely, guys, as we start wrapping this up tomorrow, we'll be live around, I would say, 12:30 ceremonies begin?
They start at 12:30. I would say let's go on about 12:45. We could do kind of like a pregame thing, especially if the game gets into a snow delay, because if you don't know, there's talks of snow in the Northeast, which I'm not thrilled about either. So
let me check the weather real quick, because I know
it's supposed to stop by the morning, but I can definitely see them delaying tomorrow's game. So I would say 12:45 plus. It gives me an opportunity to sleep late. Because
of course, because Sean's lazy.
Hey, Alex, I
was gonna be sleeping late.
Yeah. Well, I outstayed Alex last night. He was up till 3:30. I was up till about 4:30 last night. So
it's only 3 so far. Thanks to daylight saving time, it's still 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Potato, any final comments you want to make about anything? It doesn't even have to be MLB, NFL.
I would like to look into MLB topic about a long contract if they hurt in a salary league, like in the cap. I would say they can actually benefit. It can be good for the team if they are structured like Patrick Mahomes' contract, for example. Like if you can make a player, a good player for a long contract that's low wage, it can be beneficial because, as you know, the cap usually increases per year.
Yeah,
that's why it can be more beneficial.
And especially with the Giants did this year in terms of Kenny Galladay and all those players, they backloaded their contracts. But the thing about that is, the positive to that is that they backloaded the contracts, but the new TV deal kicked in with Amazon, all those, ESPN, Disney, more teams are going to increase the salary cap, which means the Giants can afford to pay somebody $25 million a year. But also with that, they're going to be restructuring a bunch of guys and if the Giants start winning in 2021, I expect them to at least draft over some guys. Maybe a guy like Jabril Peppers goes into free agency. The Giants let him go and they draft a safety because I know they like McKinney at safety. Logan Ryan's going to be here at least another year with the extension. So that's going to be interesting with that.
We need the main
I got a question for everybody too, since, the big news came out of the NFL the other day. How do we feel about the 17-game schedule now? The Steelers are going to play the Seahawks. The Giants, they're obviously going to be host. I think they're heading to Miami. They're going to play the Dolphins. And obviously the Jets will get another chance at finally trying to beat the Eagles, which they have never done. And I think it's actually a realistic possibility depending on how their offseason goes. So how do we feel, though, about the 17-game schedule?
It going to increase the chance of injury, and also like with the changes to playoffs, it's gonna like also they are not gonna be able to like rest the players
Yeah.
because only 2 teams get the bye week.
I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see, and I'll hand it over to Luca after this. I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see how they transition. And I really think it's stupid that, the NFL PA is like, wanting this virtual offseason. That only makes for lazy players. And you know what? I don't play in the NFL. I'm not a football player, but like, why would you want a virtual offseason? You just put in the COVID restrictions, whatever, mask, whatever, social distancing. Listen, that's their business. That's not mine.
Vaccination at that point, I would also say.
Yeah. And,
exactly.
what was I going to say? With that, why would you want a virtual offseason? And I'm just really, I would say, I want to see what happens optimistically to see how the transition is from 0 games in the preseason to 3 games in the preseason. And I know Alvin Kamara is actually not a fan of the 17th game.
The Bears were actually the only team that voted against the addition of the extra game. My thing with it, actually, I forgot Luca didn't go yet. So Luca, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think of it as much of anything. I only think of it as a marketing strategy for the NFL.
I think it's a way for them to get money back because they lost so much money.
Like in one more game, that's one more game. That's one more set of games for revenue. So it's increasing the revenue for the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My thing is that I don't like is them shortening the preseason. They're delaying. That means the season's going to be delayed at least a week because now the Super Bowl was pushed back a week. My thing with it is I don't like the shorter preseason. Now, we've all stated, me and the GPs, we've stated we're pro preseason, spring training, stuff like that because we believe in player development throughout the spring, the preseason, whatever. And I don't like how they're cutting it down to 3 because I feel like A, you're taking reps away, from players, and B, it gives them less time to prepare, which could again lead to more injuries, just like we saw last year. So I think Potato's right. A 17th game I think it's going to lead to more injuries. If they at least kept the 4 preseason games, I can somewhat get behind it. But me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't like the fact that the AFC gets 1 extra home game. I don't like that one bit. I think if you're going to add extra games, you got to make it neutral site. I understand the pandemic. That's going to be easier said than done. But I'm not a fan of it, me personally. I see its pros. I see its cons. I don't like it. I mean, there was a way that they could have done it correctly, and I don't think they did it right this time. But that's my personal take. I don't know about you guys.
Well, on the plus side of it, now the Giants are the only team who've beaten a 16-0 team.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Any final thoughts, Potato?
That I wonder how it affects the 17th game and how the Bears will manage to get into somehow to the postseason and manage to lose in the first round like they always do.
Yeah. I mean, now that with Andy Dalton at quarterback, and I just don't know why you would make that. If anything, in my opinion, that's a downgrade. If anything, because you get, Mitchell Trubisky had a younger quarterback. Then you downgrade to Andy Dalton, who's a veteran and who played with that scrappy Cowboys team last year.
I just don't get why they just blow it up right there.
They honestly should. And another team that should do that is the Eagles because they have like 10 draft picks this year. They're in salary cap hell. They should start releasing guys and just build through the draft. They have a new head coach, but they still have the same GM, which doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna start rebuilding, and I know they're not, they're trying to make some sporadic, trying to make a win season out of it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But with that, it just doesn't. Why would you not fire the GM at this stage in the game? Talent has to be at least some of the reason why you're losing, especially since the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'm honestly convinced that Super Bowl was a fluke. I honestly am. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from Eagles fans for that, but I don't care. I don't think I realistically think that was a fluke.
Well, let's be realistic. If the Saints got that, I think they could have been a lot different.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
I mean, with quarterback, and their situation's going to be interesting. And I think
needs Atlanta. They're another team. They've been ever since 28-3. By the way, happy belated 328. The Falcons, they need to blow it up. They've been trying for the last couple of years, and it just has not worked for them. So I think they're another team that just needs to blow it up. I don't think they have a choice.
They might do it this season if they like with the high draft pick. They just might draft a QB and just set like play one season under Metra and just blow it up after.
Yeah, they have a new GM. I honestly don't see why you wouldn't go in there and say, "Hey, let's blow this up. Let's start rebuilding. Matt Ryan, let's give him another year. Draft a quarterback behind him." And I think the Titans are honestly one of the biggest regress teams. And I keep saying this. I know I get a lot of flack for this because I was on a stream. What was it last week? Last Friday with the Hub, and Nate Talks Giants, two who have been on this channel before, and they're like, and I said, listen, I honestly think that the Titans have one of the biggest regressions, and they haven't really done much on defense other than Bud Dupree, who is coming off an ACL injury, and with that, I think they're going to be a 6-win team, a 5-win team, because I don't think that they could carry for that much longer in terms of the offense. But
I don't. Me personally, I still don't agree with that because I still think they got a very good offense that can lead them to a 9-8, 11-7 sort of record. I'm not calculating a 10-7 record. I'm still trying to process more games, but I just don't. Yeah, their defense is bad, but we've seen bad teams with bad defenses still succeed. Maybe not Super Bowl levels, but
Packers.
I don't think they'll be that bad. My personal opinion, I still don't think they're going to be that bad. I
think Titans and Packers have, for example, one weakness. They rely on like one player or like one combination of players.
Yeah.
Not too much. Like if something happens to Henry, like they're done for the season. Like if Packers lose their number one receiver, they're done. Like they cannot go far. But I think Packers will get at least to the championship game so they can choke it again.
Yeah.
Let me get the Titans' opponents real quickly before we do end this show. I don't know if this is updated this isn't updated. Let's see. So that'd be the South. So did they win their division last year? They did not.
I think the Colts won it, no?
I think the Colts. No, I think Tennessee did win it. Because remember, they hosted the Ravens in the playoffs while the Colts went to Buffalo. So I'm almost certain the Titans won it.
Titans
so
did
they
win.
Would play the Saints, right?
Yeah,
they would play. Yeah, the Saints. So
yeah,
two
the Saints.
Teams. So we'll add that, but real quickly, I do want to share my screen.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be Saints Magic Cap Space.
Yeah.
I wonder how much cap space the Giants have. Have they updated like how much Giants cap space is available?
They have, I think, 4.5. Hold on, let me real quickly redo this. Titans won it. Won what? Is my question. Hold on, let me
reshare. Oh, I think he meant division. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
division. Yeah, that's the division. Is that Jagger?
This should be it. You make sure. Yeah. Okay.
Jax.com. That's Jagger.
Yeah, it's Jagger. Okay, no, wrong screen again. Well, yeah, Fernando says Titans won. Let's try 3 times a charm with this. All right. I'm going to predict their record. I might be wrong, but I'm just assuming. So, anyway. All right. You guys see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So, Buffalo, loss. Arizona, tough to say.
I think that depends whose offense is going to be more overpowering. If Arizona can I think it's going to be game 50-50 on both sides. Who's offense?
Just write this down.
I could see them updating Buffalo, but that'll be a closer game than I think people realize. But Arizona, they'll beat Arizona.
Arizona's the home team, so I'm going to say 2-0. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 0-2. We're going to go, at least I'm going across the board of home and then away. Kansas City, 0-3.
1-2.
Colts
2-2. Well, they'll split. They'll split.
Colts, Dolphins 0-5.
No. Miami's not.
No.
Because the Dolphins have a ways to go before they're a
Yeah, but
top.
they're better defense. I think they could stop the Titans
Yes.
just prematurely.
I don't think they're stopping Derrick Henry. I think Henry's going to run all over Miami. I really think that.
Let's hold on. Let's take a look at something else. I'm not going to share the screen for this one because Sean wants to be smart, Mr. Smarty Pants over here.
Luca, can you guys back me up on this? Do you have Tennessee beating Miami? Because I think Tennessee beats Miami.
I don't know. It's hard to know. Like, it depends how the season will go. If Tua proves he's a good enough, if he's a good decent quarterback, I think Miami wins.
Luca, what do you say about that?
I might say Miami wins because of the lack of presence of Arthur Smith, but we'll see.
Let me look at defensive stats because I'm pretty sure Miami was middle of the pack last year. Yeah. Okay. So 0-5. I know Sean hates it.
Jagger agrees with me.
Yeah, I just think they have a better defense overall, though. Davin Good. No, he's actually gone. What's his face? The guy they drafted 2 years ago. What's his face?
Oh, the one that's no longer in NFL.
The one from Clemson.
Christian
Wilkins. That's his name. They have him. They have a couple other guys. Let's see. So I think 0-5 there. 49ers.
I think they could beat them because
I'm going to say 1-5.
They'll be beaten up.
The only problem with the Niners is we have no clue what they're going to look like next year.
And how much injured they'll be.
2-5 against Jacksonville. I'm going to say 3-5 against Texans. Let's go to away teams. I think Colts.
They'll lose at Indy.
Yeah.
They ain't going to be
4-6. The Jets. The Jets will beat them.
Patriots. Ooh, that's actually a good one. Patriots Titans at New England.
4-8. Try again. Rams 4-9.
We gotta get some Titans fans on here because I want to hear what they got us. I really do.
I don't think we'll get the Titans fan or the Giants fans podcast.
That's funny.
It's not impossible.
4-5. That's 8. So right now I'm at 4-9, which is 13. Rams loss 4-10. Seahawks 4-11. Steelers 4-12.
I think they could beat Steelers because the Steelers will look over them because they have bad score.
Nonetheless,
our D-line shut down Derrick Henry last year, so
hopefully they won't look down on them.
Yeah, 4-13 is my predicted record as of right now.
I got him at Buffalo, that's a loss. Arizona, that's a win, 1-1. Lost to Kansas City, so 1-2. Indianapolis, they beat, so 2-2. I think they beat Miami, 3-2. I think as of now, I'm picking them over the 49ers, so 4-2. They're gonna beat Jacksonville, 5-2. They'll beat Houston, 6-2. Is this their updated one?
It doesn't have the Saints on it, but
on this with the Saints. Ooh, that's a good one. Saints. I'll give the Saints that one actually. So 6-3.
Fernando Crespo
lose at
6-11.
Indianapolis, that's a loss, 6-4. Jacksonville, that's a win, 7-4. Beat the Jets, 8-4. I'll give New England this one, 8-5. Rams, I think that's a loss, 8-6. At Seattle, loss, 9-6. At Pittsburgh, loss, 9-7. Houston, that's a win. So I got them at 10-7.
Yeah. Luca, what do you have, Matt?
Not bad, not great. Just if it was still a 16-game schedule, it'd be 9-7 or something.
I have them losing to Buffalo. They're going to lose to the Cardinals. They're going to lose to the Chiefs. I say they split with Indianapolis. Miami beats Tennessee. 49ers, such a tough call. I'll give the Titans that one just because. Jacksonville will be swept by Tennessee. Texans, I think I'll say they're vulnerable and they split. Steelers is a loss. Jets, I could see as a maybe vulnerable win or loss. Patriots, I'm gonna say loss. Rams loss. Seahawks loss.
Jagger says 9-7. So it's 17 games. So you do have to factor in the Saints, which is gonna be interesting. But Sean thinks I'm hating on the Titans when I'm really not. I'm being realistic.
Why are we doing this now? Shouldn't we be waiting until we do our schedule preview? Or
No, but
prediction?
I was proving a point.
I still don't agree with you. I really don't.
Well, you know what, Sean? He's being funded by Titans fans. Everybody, he's being funded by Titans fans.
We own the Titans, so why should I care about the Titans?
Yeah, in defense,
Jagger likes the Jaguars, and he says 10-7.
Yeah, but you are being funded by the Titans. Hold on, we got to make a point.
How about we just wait until after the draft?
Okay.
I think you should wait before the season starts to know how much injured they are around. Like, if they end up, they could be like half the team injured before the season starts, like Eagles.
Yeah. You're an idiot. You really are an idiot. He says this yet Alex secretly has the Carson Wentz Eagles jersey in his room, so
I really don't. See,
look up back me up
you being funded by the Titans fan base is more believable.
How is he funded by the Titans fan base?
Because he's proving them to be better than they really are.
What fan base? They get taken over every game. They're like not much better than the Chargers.
Are paying you and say, "Hey, you need to go on Alex's live stream." I saw him on the Hub's live stream the other day, and he's being anti-Titans and he's being realistic. What you need to do, what you need to do, is
Jagger said he wants to join our prediction show later when the schedule comes out.
I'm down for that. And then continuing, Sean's like, the Titans fans are like, what you need to do is go on Alex's live stream next week and prove the fact that we're actually better than what we are actually in reality. We didn't lose a ton of pieces on defense. What are you talking about? Our offense is just going to carry.
You're wasting my spring break right now, and you're driving me nuts.
It's not my fault you didn't get a week-long spring break.
Actually, I did. I'm off till Wednesday.
I have a two-week-long spring break.
I'm off till Monday, but still.
Sean's not being realistic about the Titans. Let's be honest.
I really am, but okay.
Luca, what do you say? What do you say? You've been quiet.
About what exactly? The spring break Titans.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm so lost right now.
The Titans. Am I being realistic, or is Sean being realistic?
I think the Titans are still a fringe playoff team. They're like a 9-7, 8-8. There's nothing.
You've been picking your boogers there. You've been picking your boogers.
Luca, what's going on in the Knicks game? We haven't gotten a Knicks update all night.
We blew the lead, and we lost.
You lost by 1 point.
Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't able to watch the game tonight.
Mavs won 36 points from Luca. Nice.
Yeah, and I'm not glad that Sean's been defending the Titans team this whole time.
I get they regressed, Alex, but come on, they're a 9-7.
Just because defense. Oh my God!
We'll have to see how much.
They added one player on defense who's coming off an ACL injury.
To be fair,
okay, hold up.
They do not have
so Jagger, me, and Luca all say the Titans are going to be fine. Alex and Fernando said the Titans are going to suck. Potato, if you say the Titans are going to suck, then we're split even. Do you think the Titans are going to suck next year, or do you think they're going to be like we say, like 10-7, 9-8? Potato? What do you think about the Titans? Are they going to be good, or are they going to be bad?
I think they are in AFC, aren't they? So I think they might be decent. Like they might be like 9, 7 or stuff like that. But I don't think they'll get into the playoffs. I don't think they'll get into the playoffs. It'll be like a Miami situation last year.
Yeah, exactly. So we're 4-2.
Yeah, but also depends. I'll make my official prediction when like the season starts because
Yeah,
I think there's gonna be
exactly.
lots of.
Hold
Also,
on.
We'll
I'll
probably wait
interesting
until.
to see because they now have a defensive coordinator. Actually, probably knows what he's doing. So we'll see.
Yeah,
If it,
we'll probably wait to do our predictions until what, after the draft.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. That's probably the smartest thing to do.
update.
See,
Usually it's 4-2, but okay.
No. Luca's being funded by the Titans fan base.
For what?
What fan base? That's my question.
You just don't know what you're talking about.
I really do, but okay.
No. Hold on, let's see. Shane Bowen's their new defensive coordinator. Okay, they hired a new defensive coordinator. They fired the one from last year. But still, look at the defense. What pieces do you have?
The offense.
We'll see. They might draft like a new defensive piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bro, you know what, Sean? Timeout, everybody. Let's press the timeout button. Sean, for how many years did the Steelers not have a defense? They ever go to the Super Bowl? No.
Yeah, actually, you look at 2010, they weren't. Their defense wasn't terrible, but
I'm
they
talking
still
like
succeeded.
2016, 2017. I'm talking that specific defense.
No, but they had easily one of the best teams in the league both those
No,
years.
Just right.
Maybe
That's
not 2016.
That's a no.
It really isn't, because if you look at 2017, let's
Titans
not forget about
two key offensive
Week
linemen.
15. This is a Giants page, and this is a Giants Yankees page, and we're talking about the Titans.
Yeah, because it's not my fault. You're being funded by the Titans fan base.
How did this even get started? That's my question. Where did this even start?
I don't even remember.
I don't remember where it even started. God.
Maybe one day.
Anyway, can we get back to MLB, please? Forget opening days tomorrow, and everybody's worried about football.
Fernando agrees.
I think tomorrow you're gonna get back to MLB.
See,
Yeah,
Sean
tomorrow
knows that he's wrong. He's trying to get away from the subject.
Except for the fact that it's 4-2. So
yeah, it's 4-2, and you know how many people could be wrong, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping you're wrong.
Jagger made a funny comment there. Yeah, but Luca by the Titans.
That's not true.
I think that is true. You are being funded by the Titans fan base. All of the cap money. Let me explain this before we start heading out, because I know I said this how many minutes ago and we started getting into this.
20 minutes
All of the
ago.
cap money that the Titans recouped and cutting, and letting Desmond King walk, and letting Corey Davis walk, and letting Malcolm Butler go, and letting Adoree Jackson go. All that money, guys, and the guys who are watching, all that money that they recouped are going into Sean and Luca's bank account.
No, because if that were the case, I would be living
all
here.
All that money is going into their bank account. I'm telling you right now.
So is that my stimulus money?
Yeah, that's your stimulus money. See, you may live in Pennsylvania. You may not live in a mansion, but you're hiding it.
What? Bro, Luca, what is your brother smoking?
I honestly don't know.
No, Luca's just saying that because he's funded by the Titans.
Yeah, it says the one that probably really lives in Boston and is secretly still a Red Sox fan.
Look, I'm at Yankee Stadium right now. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, you're in Yankee Stadium. How?
Yes,
How's security?
I'm in the broadcast booth. What are you talking about?
Really? Because how is there a full capacity crowd behind you then?
Because
we're in a pandemic. Yeah, in a pandemic, I'm pretty sure the 49,000 people behind you would all have COVID.
Everybody has a mask on and they're social distancing.
Yeah, I'm sure they are when there's 49,000 people inside that stadium right now.
You know, it only holds up to 48,000. So, Sean, you're wrong there. That's how you're wrong in all of this. I'm telling you right now, you're being funded by the Titans, and that's why you want to get a PS5. That's why you want to move to New York, because you know why? Because with that money, you can go buy yourself a good fancy apartment. Not even that. You'll buy a house.
I don't want a house. I would prefer to live in a tiny apartment.
That's what you tell us right now with the money. Luca, what are you going to do with your Titan stimulus money?
They're not paying me, so how can I get stimulus money?
Luca, okay, let's go by Alex's little rumor here. With that stimulus money, you should give Alex the boot and kick him out and take over that room completely.
He can't buy.
I agree.
What is this? What is this? Oh, time out. What is this? The Washington football team? He can't buy me out.
Yes, I can.
No, you
I'm
can't.
sure that's stimulus money. I didn't get anything.
He's younger. He gets more rights.
No, what? See, there's no logic there. But my logic.
Can anyone ask Entertainer where he left his soul? I just watched him like the last half a minute of the next game. He looked like he lost his soul there.
He probably did, knowing how bad Knicks are.
Yeah, probably.
Sean's eating, the chips that the Titans bought him. It was kind of like, see, what happened was at our first Yankee game, we won this is a real story, by the way. This is not fictional. We were the first time me and my brother went to a Yankee game was 2012 against the Angels, and we ended up winning. I don't even remember what the contest was. We ended up winning a big bag of Dorito chips and a big bag of Lay's.
Hey, Alex, want to remember something? When you guys brought me to Yankee Stadium last 2 years ago against the Royals, I got a free Pepsi and you didn't. Because I had a MasterCard, and the promotion was if you had a MasterCard, you got a free Pepsi. So I got this big 1 liter thing of Pepsi and you didn't.
Oh, I just got reminded about the Marlins.
Yeah, let's not forget you're being funded by Tennessee Titans.
Let's not forget that I got a free Pepsi and you didn't.
Every time I have them going 17-0 if they're paying me.
I just get reminded by Uber Eats. My bank switched my card from MasterCard to Visa, so I no longer get like 10 quid of free food like 2 times per year. It made me very sad. But it's a great exercise in negotiation when I look at the price and I'm like, nah, I'm just going to use the fridge again.
All right, so I'm going to start wrapping it up here. Potato, any final thoughts?
Again, for the third time.
I don't know. We'll see how we'll have to determine how bad the Titans are going to be next season.
Yeah, we'll see when the schedule comes out when the draft comes out. But the draft is not an immediate fix to anything. I know Sean and Luca don't know that, but you know what? That's for their teams.
And also, I'm going to be interested in how well Washington does, because I think they are going to be better than people think. Like the defense is quite good. Fitzmagic can make his magic and can make them a good offense. Yeah.
I mean, they need to get a long-term quarterback and maybe add some pieces on the offensive line, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, have a good night, Potato.
You too. See ya.
Have a good night.
All right, let's bring it back to this. So I'm pretty much going to wrap it up here. Sean, final thoughts, and then I'll kind of
I was about to say, I thought you were just going to sign off right there. Well, I loved hearing Rob's perspective, and he obviously knows a lot more than the three of us do about what happened with the Staten Island Yankees. I love the insight he gave us, because that gave us all a whole new perspective on what happened up in Staten Island, and I really enjoyed talking to him. You provide a lot of great insight. As far as the Yankees go, I'm very excited for tomorrow, and obviously we'll be on tomorrow, so you'll be able to see it. And let's let the chase for 28 begin. It's baseball season. Before we know it, we'll be all sitting in Yankee Stadium again. So I'm excited. So bring on 2021. I'm ready.
Luca.
I'm just ready for the 2021 baseball season. I can't wait for tomorrow. Can't wait to watch the game. Finally, fans are back. But, yeah.
All right. Thank you for everyone who joined. Obviously, we got some new viewers in the last couple of minutes. We're talking a little bit of NFL, knowing that Sean and Luke are being funded by the Tennessee Titans, which is a real shame. They can't go over their own opinion. But that's a shame, honestly. But on a different note, it was good to hear Robert. Obviously, I contacted him a couple of days ago. He was up for it. And, guys, if you haven't already, follow him on Twitter, Pinstripe Prospects. If you want to know more about the Yankees minor league system, they're a great website. They conduct a lot
Check
of
his
interviews
YouTube.
with coaches. What?
Check his YouTube too. He's got some amazing videos. A lot of them from Staten Island. You get to see a gorgeous view of the city in the background, and he's got some great videos of a lot of top prospects that were playing in Staten Island from Yankees minor league camp. Even when Staten Island played over in Brooklyn, he went over. So definitely check out his YouTube. He's got some really good content on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Check him out, guys. We'll be live tomorrow around 12:45 in the middle of the ceremonies, and we'll get that set up. And obviously, opening day is tomorrow. Hopefully it doesn't get rained out. It's supposed to stop by 11, so we'll see about that. But anyway, from the 2 Titans fans over here and the 1 Giants fan over here, thank you guys for tuning in. Next Monday, we'll be back. I know it was kind of a weird thing this week, us having it on a Wednesday. But anyway, thank you guys. See you next week from the Titans fans and the Giants fan.